Hi, I'm Arthur, and this is, I guess, part 17 in a 20-part series I'm doing covering second founding successor chapters in Order of the Legions. Do you need to have seen the other parts to understand this one? No, but it would make me happy. This is going to be a bit of a weird one. Instead of covering a successor chapter or warband, I'm going to discuss a topic that I think is very interesting. Think of it as a bit of a meta-narrative deconstruction of the idea of the Wordbearer's second founding chapter, instead of just covering them. As I go through life, I do this thing called reading. It was kind of funny starting off this channel all those months ago where I wasn't nearly as read about the 40k setting as I am now. I try to read through as many books as humanly possible to get some more information about things. I'm a bit of a slow reader, but I try my best, of course. So inevitably, whenever you read more about a specific topic, your opinion changes and develops more and more. I'm not above admitting when I was wrong, or when my opinion changes. And the word bearers are one of those topics that I find the more I read about them, the more my mindset changes. What do I mean by this? Well, if you go back to my Season 2 announcement video, I mentioned I was going to cover a warband known as the Anointed. Now, those turn out were chosen in ignorance, as they aren't even really a warband. They are just the Elite First Company equivalent of a warband for the word bearers. Mostly Terminators and the like. It's not exactly something I can look at and in good consciousness make a video about in this series. So, like I did with the Thousand Sons successors, I decided to change it up, and to my confusion, I didn't see many options, or at least many options that would fit my criteria and what I wanted to get done in this video. Am I never going to cover those specific factions? No, I want to cover every Space Marine chapter at some point, no matter how minor, and I got quite a few to get through. It left me in the mindset I have now when discussing that video idea. Why is that? Why is it that any splinter warband of certain factions are more or less the same thing as their predecessors, but usually lesser? Sure, there is that one warband of the word bearers that instead of worshipping chaos as a whole, they just said fuck it, we ball, and chose Khorne. But in general, the successors and splinters of the word bearers are very much samey across the board. Samey to the point where you'd look at them and think that they are basically just the same thing with slightly different armor. It's because the word bearers in the modern setting have a weird issue. I'm going to ask a question now, and I feel like I'm going to lose a few of you, as it might sound like I'm plumbing so deep up my own ass that I am able to smell my own tonsils at this point. But are you familiar with the concept of Flanderization? It's a fun term that I like examining in various pieces of media I watch. To put it bluntly, Flanderization is when, through the process of time, a character's representation is exemplified by a single feature of their personality. Basically, they become more and more about one individual element of their personality rather than being more nuanced in a character with differing traits. The term comes from Ned Flanders from The Simpsons, where he originally was just supposed to be the polar opposite to Homer, where he was kind, charitable, and a good Christian, but through time you see his character get eroded away to become nothing more than just a hyper-Christian, where he is so obsessed with God that it's the only thing that people tend to know about him. So with that in mind, we go back to the word bearers, and for the most part, the entirety of the 40k Chaos Pantheon. And it makes sense. Like, the World Eaters were a bloodthirsty legion originally, so them worshipping the god of blood, murder, and big strong men would obviously have that kind of an effect on them. They are now just known for being angry berserkers. The same goes for the Death Guard, where they were known for being stinky and resilient for the most part back in the day. Now they are just stinky and resilient. So, to tune our focus back onto the word bearers, I would honestly say it's a lot less tolerable on them, and the reason for that is both complicated and simple to understand. So for one, at base, the word bearers are known for being the most contentious of the legions. I'd say on par with maybe the Ultramarines, but definitely less so, because the Ultramarines' reputation is starting to recover because Matt Ward has been cast off into a fucking abyss somewhere. But the thing with the Ultramarines and the Word Bearers, the thing that they have in common rather, is a lot of people like them and a lot of people don't like them, but not many people have a neutral opinion about them. I am of a mind to say that the Horus Heresy era word bearers are easy to follow and definitely filled with a lot of characters that I would deem a bit frustrating, but that's besides the point. And what exactly is the point? Well, when you have a faction of characters that are known for having traits that annoy and even anger some readers when they are directly involved in a story, and then you have this specific trait refined to make that trait be the first and foremost of them, to the point where other Chaos factions in the lore see them as a bunch of weird religious nut jobs, it makes telling nuanced stories and adding differing viewpoints on them a bit tougher. It especially makes creating new warbands or chapters that follow a different rule set kind of hard, because from a writing perspective, you have this mindset that you need to make sure they are zealots in order to make them fit the predetermined characterization of word bearer's successor. The problem there is that in 40k, everyone is a zealot, to some degree at least. So what does that mean? It means that they have to crank up the representation of that one trait to make it fit more, and thus you're going to see my point about the Flanderization. So in the end, you have a bunch of splinter factions that resemble their parent faction significantly more than it should. It leads to some pretty bland representation, and it's one of the reasons why you can see different warbands for every Chaos Legion in the modern setting, aside from, maybe the Night Lords and the Alpha Legion, in the modern style, getting a printed out set of armor. You even have stuff like the Purge or the Flawless Host. I talk about them a lot, I know. But the Word Bearers, you can't really get any new warbands for, and even if you do, they're not very well known. It's more of a flex to bring up that they're referencing that old warband than it is to actually show that they're still a big player in the setting. It's definitely a lot more complicated than that, because the word bearers are iconoclasts in lore. They mount rebellions and spread the gospel of the primordial annihilators, so they usually operate in small cells with mass amounts of cultists and small amounts of marines. It does make forming new warbands a bit tough as well. Not to mention, I feel like training new apothecaries for the word bearers would be a fucking hassle. Could you imagine trying to get this man his doctorate? Yeah, I didn't fucking think so. In the short end of things, I think the word bearers in terms of successor chapters is a bit lackluster, as you could probably guess from the whole point of this video. And I'm gonna do more digging into the ones that are around in the future, as I find myself growing increasingly more interested in them. Is Lorgar still a creep? Oh, fuck yeah, he is. But I realize it's not as much his fault as it is the fault of the people around him, like Corferon and the Emperor. Oh, fuck, did I say that? Yeah, Erebus is almost irredeemable. He's been a mustache-twirling villain since the beginning of his existence, and in all honesty, he doesn't need to be much of anything else. I just wished that every other descendant chapter of the word bearers would be. Another funny thing I see is there are many people complaining that legions like the Night Lords and the Alpha Legion, as I mentioned before, don't get new models, which is fair, though the Night Lords are getting a kill team soon, and the Alpha Legion, well, you could make the kill team in Alpha Legion kill team too, if you're a dick like that, but I've never encountered anyone complaining that there are no word bearers or unique word bearer models. I think it is something to ruminate about. But what do you think about the iconoclasts and their weird issues with creating new sub-factions? Think I should have just covered one of the weirder ones that I found, or should I have just left it be? I think I'm content with making Word Bearers Part 2, and then next season or whenever I'm going to cover an actual successor chapter. Let me know in the comments, as well as what's your favorite sub-faction for any kind of Chaos Legion. Also, remember to like and subscribe, as it does help the channel. Alongside that, thank you to my channel members for supporting me, and if you want to support me as well as gain access to exclusive content, then become a channel member today. Thanks again for watching, and until next time.